So let's look at this next line here. If you play it really straight, it sounds nice. It sounds very nice, very straight. Maybe because it's just such beautiful music, I'm not sure, but yeah, it's impossible to make this piece sound bad. That's exactly right. It's impossible to make it sound bad, right? But what's a different way of doing that? Would be something like this. You see how the rhythm was different? Hey everyone, we're going to talk about different degrees of rubato in Chopin, particularly in the Andante, Spianato, and Grande Polonaise. I do have a score here for you. Unfortunately, it's really not a nice one, right? This is an IMSLP, and it's really, really hard to read. I love these old-fashioned bass clefs that are backwards. But anyway, I don't know if, this is really going to be necessary. I think we'll just kind of stick to this one for now and just talk about a few things here. So different degrees of rubato. First of all, let's just be clear about what rubato is. It's distorting the time, distorting the rhythm, usually in a way that the global time in a period or a bar or whatever stays around the same, because for every bit of pushing you do, then you'll slow down a bit as well. Typically in a rubato. It's not always the case, but usually that happens. So you take a little bit of time and then you push it somewhere else. So the rhythm gets a little distorted. I like to think of the rhythm as kind of like a grid. Everything is, let's say like metronomical, and then we're kind of displacing that grid a little bit, distorting it, twisting it a little bit into something else. So, and this is something I'm exploring a little bit in this piece right now, because I have to play it in a week, is, how much rubato is right, and what does it sound like when there's no rubato? What does it sound like when there's too much rubato? So, and I don't even know if I would just call it rubato, just like, I don't know, let's call it musical flair, okay? So let's take a passage like this as the first passage in the Polonaise, once the Polonaise starts after the introduction, and let's play it straight with as little rubato as possible. It would sound something like this. Okay, that's as little rubato as possible, and it's really missing something. So, okay, let's amp it up a little bit. There's so many little things that we could pay attention to in this piece. All right, let's show the score. We'll do this like this. This is where we're starting from, is right here. Take orange. I really like the orange for some reason. So we start out in E flat major, or an E flat major here with an E flat major chord, and then we get this A flat here. There's a little expressiveness to think about there, and then there's this line that's also moving forward. There's that little staccato and accent, So the reason I'm showing all this is because I think we can easily do too much. There's that big interval there. Again, this little chromatic movement with that expressive F sharp. There's also this chord that's a G, sorry. That tends to make us take a little time. Also, I mean, this A flat's another, this whole three notes are chromatic here. Actually, well, all of this is chromatic. Not the G and the F there. And then the resolution of this, we would be inclined to take a little time here. Okay, so let's do too much, okay? We're going to do too much first. So here is what I think would be too much flair and too much rubato in this passage. Yeah, let's keep the screen up here. All right, I'm just being crazy here. And with this Polonaise, there's also something yum, ba ba bum, bum, bum. We have this rhythm all the time in the Polonaise, just like in the, how does it go? Whoa, can't remember that one. Here we go. Oh my goodness, that's embarrassing. I just can't remember it this morning. But we always have that Polonaise rhythm in there. Yum, da, 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 da. Yeah, okay, we forget that one. We'll go back to E flat major. And it's tempting, and I think we should not play it too square. Yum, ba ba bum bum bum, but have a little yum, da da da. You hear that? That's like a minor sort of rubato. I wouldn't really call it a rubato. We're just kind of starting this a little bit late, this thing here, and playing it a little faster to give it a little extra movement. So if you do too much of that again, it's going to sound like this. So I think it's just a little bit too much. It kind of feels fun, but when you really listen to it, it's like it's making Chopin into something a little not what he is, you know, a little more almost Spanish or suave or something, you know. Notice also here, he also wrote sostenuto here, so that's an interesting thing to take into account. Okay, here's, you know, my best shot at what I think is just, I'm just going to do my best to find the middle ground here and not do too much rubato, but without making it totally straight, you know. Maybe it would sound something like this. Hopefully that sounds better. Let's take another passage. We're going to do this quite briefly, actually. This score is funny. It's really an old-fashioned score. There's old things in there that are not in the normal score. So, okay, so let's just look at another passage here. Again, let's do it straight. I can't even find myself on the score, so we'll just go with this one by heart because we can do it today. So here we go. Here it's straight. Yeah, let's do this again here. Let's take that little passage apart. Where is this? Right at the top of the page. So here we have so we do have an ascent to that note with what kind of looks like an accent, and then a sort of yadadadam, yadadam. And then this is a little different. Yeah, I think Chopin, I don't know if he writes it here. I've seen it in some editions, a little con forza here. Con forza, ta-yam panti yadadam. Here again we have that, you know, Polonaise rhythm here. Yum pa-da-da-da-da-da, yum pa-da-pa-da-pa-da-bi-da. And then I like to take a little time on this one as well because... And of course, you know, we can talk about the details of this piece and go through the whole thing eventually, but I would do more on this whole phrase and then start this one a little less. And then this delicatissimo, this is really something different here, and we're going to talk about that as well. Okay, so without going into too much detail, there we had it straight. Let's do too much rubato, too much flair, too much spike in the music. So, That's hard. Hard to do too much rubato in there, but let's just do it the best now. Maybe find the middle ground here. Okay, so somewhere in the middle ground. I could go right on to the next phrase here because this is a little different. Yeah, we have. Okay, we're going to talk about that one. So here's something I've noticed in here is similarly, it's very tempting, at least for me. I don't like to keep these totally straight. So again, here's a very straight version. Kind of playing everything exactly with the right rhythm here. Now, what if again you spike it up a little with this sort of rubato, if you want to call that. So you see how that's different. The no rubato. And too much of it. So you see how these get a little too fast. And I think that's probably just too much again for this Dolce section. So again, if you find that middle ground, there's a middle ground to be found, one way or another, right? You know, another thing to consider if you're playing this is there's also a really nice line that if you play this with strings that they have a nice line there. F, F sharp or G flat. Sorry for the mistakes, guys. I'm still relearning this. But that's how it goes. Yeah, let's look at one other example that I think would, you know, give you another idea. In the Mazurka part of this Andante, Spianato, and Grande Polonaise, which is kind of like a nocturne, a little Mazurka. This is the Mazurka-ish. And then the Polonaise. Semplice. I love that. So let's look at this next line here. If you play it really straight, it sounds nice. It sounds very nice, very straight. Maybe because it's just such beautiful music, I'm not sure, but yeah, it's impossible to make this piece sound bad. That's exactly right. It's impossible to make it sound bad, right? But what's a different way of doing that? Would be something like this. You see how the rhythm was different? Now let's overdo it. Let's do too much so you really hear what we're talking about. Right, again, straight. It's not bad, but there's a middle ground. And of course, that part repeats twice in here, so it's nice to find a different way of playing it. Okay, I think, yeah, that's it. So different degrees of rubato, that's something to think about. When you come to my masterclass, we're going to talk about that. We'll work on rubato. If you want to join the next masterclass, follow the link in the description for the masterclasses. If you're watching the feed, don't forget to like and subscribe. And that's it.